ABCs of NMOSD is an education podcast series to share knowledge about neuromyelitis optica spectrum disorder, or NMOSD, a rare, relapsing autoimmune disorder that preferentially causes inflammation in the optic nerves and spinal cord. ABCs of NMOSD is hosted by SRNA, the Siegel Rare Neuroimmune Association, and in collaboration with the Sumaira Foundation and Guthrie-Jackson Charitable Foundation. SRNA is a nonprofit focused on support, education, and research of rare neuroimmune disorders. You can learn more about us on our website at wearesrna.org. This series is sponsored in part by Amgen, Alexion AstraZeneca Rare Disease, and UCB.
Hello and welcome to ABCs of NMOSD. This episode is titled Social Reintegration Following an NMOSD Diagnosis and was moderated by Landy Thomas. For this podcast, Landy was joined by Kim Jackson-Matthews. Kim is the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Accessibility Liaison with the Guthrie-Jackson Charitable Foundation and is diagnosed with NMOSD. You can view her full bio in the podcast description.
Today we are talking about social reintegration, or basically how to re-find your footing in your life after an attack or a flare or onset of NMO. I think that it impacts a lot of different people differently. A lot of the time it's hard to maintain friendships and maintain relationships after sickness. That's basically what we're talking about today. And I have with me the most beautiful Kim Jackson-Matthews. Do you mind beginning just by briefly introducing yourself?
Sure. Hi there. How you doing? And yes, I'm Kim Jackson-Matthews, and currently a patient with neuromyelitis optica spectrum disorder. And I also am advocate for the disease and more. And we'll get into that probably.
Yeah, and a lot more. Do you mind sharing I think that you've shared it a lot, and I like your diagnosis story because I connect with it. But do you mind sharing just briefly again, what was your diagnosis story, like initial symptoms, all that?
Yeah, sure. Yes, the diagnosis came in 2020. Well, at first onset, and that was with optic neuritis of my right eye. And to date, I cannot see out of the right eye. And that was, like I said, it was about in 2020. And unfortunately, it wasn't really a diagnosis other than they just were talking about, it could be age-related, degenerative. But fast forward to, I did end up seeing an ophthalmologist or neuro-ophthalmologist who kind of hesitated, I believe, in trying to find out, was there anything else? And then came back to me and said, well, there might be, I was given steroids, but nothing other than steroids just to shrink the inflammation, I was told. And I said, that has to be something else I can't see. And so in 2021, this is fast forward to about 5 to 6 months later, after nothing else was done, after seeing several doctors, and I ended up having an onset of the experience or symptoms of what later was NMO. And it started at my feet, like with symptoms with like cramping, but now I have neuropathy. So that was that coming on, or the nerves I should say. And then it traveled. So with weakness in my legs and also just everywhere, just ended up coming up the feeling from the feet all the way to my knees. And then the feeling jumped to my midsection. So my whole middle with sharp pains and severe cramping or pain and burning in my arm. One of my arms is still sensitive. The back of my arms have a lot of sunburn feeling. This is how it's described. I describe it to people. And that resulted in me again getting very weak and telling my husband I have to go to an emergency because I didn't feel good, even though he looked, I asked him earlier, during the day when this was happening, can you kind of look at my feet, to see, it hurt. And he said, again, kind of telling me too, no, you'll be better. It's probably just a cramp, but it didn't again get better. So we ventured to an urgent care where I was told, it could be just just me with stomach pains or something. Like I said, it was my stomach. They said, go take an enema and go home after, because I think at that time too, they were paying attention to people that have had COVID. So I was like on the back burner, even though I said, hey, I know it's not that. I just really don't, I'm really weak. My feet hurt. And they did a EKG and thinking, well, you're a mature lady. Let's rule some things out. None of that happened. And like I said, they sent me home, and it just got worse until at the point that I really couldn't. I was very, very weak and could not go up some stairs and things. So we ended up went to a different place other than the urgent care, a whole different location. Yeah. And I'm so thankful to have gone to UCLA, to their facility and their emergency, and was told, we're going to take you in. We're going to take you in and run some tests. And at that time, it was full on COVID. So my husband couldn't go in, but I am so thankful that they ran a bunch of tests within the course of a couple of days. And about a day and a half or so that confirmed that I had NMOSD with the positive, I'm positive for aquaporin 4. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much it. And now I suffer from the midsection. I have transverse myelitis. And some people, that's in the midsection to your thorax or your midsection. And so some people may have maybe paralyzed. And I'm just, thankful that I am not paralyzed, but it does cause movement problems. Sometimes it feels stiff, and you get the hug a lot in that section, as they say, the MS hug. That's just a coin. Yeah. And so that can be uncomfortable along with other pain. So I'm still trying to deal with that to this day.
Yeah, it's a lot to navigate. I know that, especially since, it's only been 4 years. You are
3. This is 3.
3.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay. Yeah. Yes. You are in the beginnings of it. Honestly, some of that nerve, nerves slowly heal over time, but it is in the beginning, it can be especially harsh. Right. I do think that there's always chances of improvement. But so far, I am so grateful that you've not had to encounter too much in the way of paralysis. That is good news.
Yes.
I do want to ask, so, what were your emotions like when you were first going through the beginning of this? And how are you feeling now?
Well, so it's a good question. Like emotionally up and down, and meaning I was, I guess, in denial for a minute, because in denial because I didn't want to believe that somebody who was so healthy could have this. I was eating right, and eating right, meaning with a really good diet, the vegetarian/vegan diet, as well as exercising often. And I just didn't want to believe what the doctors were saying as far as, oh, you can't do this sport, or you can't do, you can't participate in this like Taekwondo because it will hurt your spine. Because at that time I really, went through the physical therapy, and but I wasn't hurting as much. And so I'm like, nah, I don't know why they're saying that. But it was hurtful because, I would cry. I cried for a minute, for a little bit. I'm not really usually a crier, but it was emotional in that sense that I thought, my life where I saw it going wasn't going to be the same. And so that definitely is hard for people to, for me, I should say, to get my head around. It was hard at first. And then today though, and after that, I didn't soak on it. too long. So definitely I'm a person who tries to look at the positive. And so I started thinking about why and being faithful, like, why does this happen to me? There are the positives. There is something. I said at first, even when I got the eye diagnosis, or, I didn't have my sight. I definitely said, hey, I could still do something. I have the other eye. That's just, something little. I can do it. So I started definitely, playing on the positive sides. And yeah, I still have my voice. I still have capability of, walking. What else can I do to help myself and to help other people with this?
Yeah, that is a really great way to approach it. It's good to see it as what you can do rather than focusing on what you can't. Like life is always going to be different than the way it was, and I think that a lot of people put their lives on hold while they wait for it to go back to normal. When will I be normal again? Or once things are normal, then I'll do this.
That's true.
Sometimes you just have to live as best you can at the level you're at. Although it's hard to stop mourning the things that could have happened, but
right.
It's still, there's so much joy still to be had, so many people to invite into your life, so much great experiences to have, and so much to see, so much to love, so much to learn.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just think too, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. Please.
But I definitely feel that, you talked about the feeling of mourning your past life, and that from like the mental wellness side or mental health side of this whole thing, or people with diseases and all. And it's normal. So I had to get used to my new normal, and it's okay, to feel a certain way. It's okay to get up today and not feel like, you have that energy, but not beating yourself up about it. So I think I've, come to that realization today.
Yeah, no, that's completely fair. And I just really hope people can walk away from today and give themselves a little bit of grace, honestly, because it is hard to have NMO, and it's hard to have any of these rare illnesses, but NMO does just kind of haunt you, especially because it's relapsing and it can happen again. And there's this kind of overhanging fear. But I think that, our strongest support is each other. There are so many people that you can turn to, so many great organizations that really genuinely care about you and your story and want amazing outcomes for you and your health and your life. People want good things for your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
So to the topic that we are discussing today, I know personally that you're a really social person. I heard about like all the things that the person that you were and the person that you are, and I thought, yes, this is probably a really good fit. And I honestly just wanted to ask if you could catch our audience up to speed. What did your social life look like before you got diagnosed with NMOSD? Like your sorority, you were part of the church, volunteering. What did it look like?
Right. Before NMOSD, I was very active in my sorority, which is, if I can say, the Los Angeles Alumni chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I'm a member, and very active with all of their different programs, from social action to being one of the co-chairs of physical and mental health. So can you imagine being, doing the programs or fitness programs from Zumba and all, but being active doing that, as well as, just helping out there. And as far as we'll go to the church, being a first lady of a church, meaning my husband is the pastor of a church, and being active in bringing people into the church or hosting things that happen, like I say that happen, but things that at the church, from a wedding to anything that Pastor Frank has to do. So being very active and helping out with any events that happen at the church, and being a technical person too, to help with his live broadcast that he does, his Facebook Live and anything. So using my degree, which is communication, to help in that facet. And also I was also a fitness trainer. And so even before COVID and during COVID, I had clients. I had just two at that time, but people who were with cancer or had been in remission with cancer. So that was one of my goals, to help seniors as well as help people with any kind of maladies. And to date, I'm still friends with those people. And what was interesting is having been diagnosed while I'm, training someone, and then I didn't tell the person. I didn't tell them until it was, definitive. And that was really hard, because I'm the person, I always say this, and you've heard me say this before, I'm the person that is supposed to be helping people, not me being helped, which was a hard thing too to get over in my mind, but being busy. So those are two avenues, and well, those three things, and just everything else being, my sons are older, but I am a mother, and just being around, and just still doing my own thing as well. Just trying to, I had been in different mediums. So just being like an advocate for helping, but also doing some writing on my own. And I still continue to do some writing that will hopefully get out soon, that you'll see. So I've been working on, it's like I pick it up and then I put it down, but I am doing some writing, and that helps me a lot.
Good. Okay. I'm glad. Like, I know that you have that background, but did that change at all when you first had your onset, especially considering like that role as the mental and physical health coordinator, when things happened and you received your diagnosis, and your mobility changed and all that, was it hard to like refine your social life, or to, I don't know, to address it?
Yes, yeah, the second part of that is that, for me it was hard, I think, in the way of just navigating with people. I think is how they perceive me, like after, or how they
Yeah.
handle me. And either some, and you know this well, some people don't, they think that you're cured. Like once
Right.
I was in the hospital for a while, and when I came out, they're asking my husband, "Oh, she better?" Because they can't see, to this day. Well, she looks fine, but just people not really knowing about the disease. I've since educated, like you said, from the 3.5, or because I would make it 4, but just the diagnosis with NMOSD. And since those people have been educated by me, or have come to some of our patient days, or the patient days that we've gone to, and they're like, wow. And so they are learning, they've learned, but it's just how that perception of how I am, or people's maybe not, just not comfortable with what I have, and not, I felt that it was harder because I wasn't getting some of the invitations to do some of the things I did before, perhaps if it was traveling. And I have friends that have traveled out of the country, and I had a trip planned, and I had to cancel out with the girlfriend's trip, actually more than once. And they didn't realize, I said, well, if I go to this country, I've already done the research, and they don't have like maybe a hospital that could care for me if I got sick. So, but
Right.
it was okay. I have come to not take it personally with them, but it was hard because I wanted to travel and I want to go to places. So now what do? I've done my research, and there are places that can accommodate me. There are places that have accessibility for, being on the lower floor, or, not just different different hotels and things like that. And then making sure, like you said, there are doctors that are available that could help in case of a major, relapse of some kind. Other than that, yeah, just living life a different way and just trying not to let it, get to me and keep going. So I do still participate in my sorority and I just do different jobs. And also, there's one that I also forgot, another nonprofit that I'm with. Well, two. I actually work with another one called Project Educate, and we help the homeless. And I was blind in one eye, or when, wow, this has been like for the last 6 years I've been with them. But, okay, I was, in 2020 and I still continue to help. I did a fitness program. I'm over their fitness program, and it's called Fitness Education and Diet, or FED. And I help come up with programs, and I help with the homeless here in Los Angeles. And so I was out with my arms out giving classes, giving like Zumba classes to the homeless, because I feel that there are so many reasons why people are homeless, and a lot has to do with their mental state or their physical state. And so that's what I was. I have pictures of that where I was helping a man in a wheelchair. And that was something that I continued. I can't do it now as much at all because I have to definitely be careful. I was like wearing a mask if I'm too real close to someone. But no, sometimes we're outdoors, sometimes we're in. And so the time it takes standing sometimes is a little too long for my spine. But so I've changed, or the Project Educate, they give me, as far as when we have events, they'll give me the registration desk or something where I can sit, but I don't have to stand as long. And so they've already, helped me out that way. And the same with as the sorority, and it's come to where I don't want to be on the computer too long, or can't too long. I mean, in the course of a day, I have work as well. And so I'm doing what I can, and just do a little bit with a couple of the organizations, but a few of the with their different committees. I'm sorry. So they're different committees, and so I just do what I can and do some writing for one. And they said, we just want you there. Most times you'll see me, like you say, she's always busy, but I'll show up. And being, showing up and supporting is the best thing you could do for a lot of organizations. And if I can sit and say, let me pass out this, I'll do it, as long as it's, the temperature is not too hot or not too cold.
Right. It sounds like,
right.
You still choose, I think a lot of people, after they get these diagnoses, they kind of back off a lot. And they think, well, okay, now I'm different or whatever, and then I just can't do it anymore. But it sounds like you kind of conquer it. You go towards it with a spirit of, I'm gonna try and I'm gonna go for it. And if it doesn't work, then I'll do it, but I'll do it differently. And
right.
Yes, and that's a good way of doing it, because otherwise there's so much feelings of isolation that can come from this, especially since a lot of people don't live nearby, or they don't have these opportunities to see people with these same rare illnesses like on a daily basis or anything like that. I know me, maybe I see somebody with NMO maybe once a year, twice a year, which is hard so what we have to do is make sure that the people around us that we keep in our circle, even if they don't have our rare condition, can still love us that same amount, that can still accept us and view us as valuable, and not view us as, lesser than or too fragile.
Right.
I've always hated being seen as too fragile for doing things, because
that's not me. You're the same.
You're not fragile. No.
I don't want to. I mean, I know it's the good intention for most people. I mean, in the beginning, even girlfriends, I holding this or holding my hand and different things. I'm like, it's okay. thank you. I thank you. I'm so, great to have like you, like the love, but I got to do this myself. I have to get
Part of
stronger.
it is proving it
And
to
I
yourself.
just,
You have to prove it to
exactly, I'm
yourself.
that one. And I had to prove that I am strong, that I do have the mentality that I've even gone in everything with. And, even remembering in Taekwondo, and I thank the owners, I'll call them, but they're not just owners, they're friends as well as their master and grandmasters of the sport of Taekwondo who taught me well to be persistent, but also they're called the Limas, Andre Lima and Christiane Lima. And she always told me, Kim, don't, especially in this sport, but don't show your emotions on your face. Wear it on your sleeve, and and then it would help you. It'll help you, get through what you're going through, or if it's pain, or what you're trying to think about, but you don't not necessarily have to show it. And so with that, I took that and remembering how I was going to navigate this, and that I'm not phony or anything. I will tell people, oh yeah, well, I don't feel good, or it's okay. I'm not telling you right now that I don't hurt, that I don't have pain, that I don't. There are days I'm not up every day. Well, I'm up every day out of this bed. That's one thing that I do.
Yes.
I make sure that I get up. I am not in the bed, but I just want to make sure people know that. But my circles were the best thing that happened to me was just the circles of friends from different, or not just organizations, or all the different things that I'm in, and they came right away or called when I was in the hospital. And that has to be, with my Taekwondo ladies that are friends with me, that are trained with me, that had to do with a few from church and a lot from my sorority line, big, and the people who helped me in the beginning. Even, I can't say all the names right now. I'm trying to get this in brief, but who helped me when one of my friends and sorority sisters named Latanya, she was able to go with me, went to one of my appointments, or a few, taking me and driving me. And there's others that are, who you are, that helped cook when I couldn't cook in the beginning, making soup and things. And I say it like I'm a single person, but I'm not. But my husband doesn't. He's not a big cook.
Yeah.
But bless his soul, he will go. He's the best. He'll go run to the fast food, and I love that. But at that time, I needed healthy. But they just, I have a few that made food for me, and I have, now it's a little different. People have backed off, like from the beginning, right? That's the hard part. It's like almost you don't know this, but having a baby at first, okay, everybody's there and you're happy, and then you're on your own.
Right.
But I make sure to another thing, like I pull from all sources, and one is sources of what my parents, they're not here now, but they're my angels, and I just remember always what they would say about things. And one is, my mom would say, can you always make your own happenings, right? I can't,
Right.
not going to wait on people, or you just they don't know what I'm going through, so you have to let them know, hey, I want to do this, or yeah, I'm okay to do this, and you have to speak up and let them know. So, but I make the conversation easy, and I make the phone calls, and people, oh, okay,
Yeah.
not inviting me to lunch, or not going to this. I'm like, I'm here, I'm still here. How are you? And I'll be on the phone. Like this day would be a good day to make phone calls, and I make phone calls or leave messages.
Yeah. Okay.
Or text.
Well, that's totally, I think that's a good way of doing it. Honestly, if you have a need, you ask them for, you want to go to lunch. You want to have the parts of life Yeah,
Right.
sometimes it's hard for like travel. I know when I went on my Make-A-Wish trip, Make-A-Wish was like really adamant that I had to go to places that had like technically had good hospital cares because they got to make sure that I could get care, especially because
Mm.
I was so like critical is the wrong word for it, but I was constantly going paralyzed or blind. So it was good that they focused on that. So I totally understand what you mean about, some social opportunities having to turn down just for the sake of your own health and sake of peace, because even if you did go on the trip, you'd probably be thinking to yourself, what if something happens?
Right.
But
Couldn't even relax, but yeah.
yeah, you couldn't really fully relax. But being able to go to lunch with people and uh,
Mhm.
it hurts sometimes when people assume you're going to say no or assume that you're not going to be doing well enough. It's always great to have the invitation at the very least, because it's like there are a lot of times where you might say yes, or at the very least it
Yeah,
brings you comfort to know that people are thinking of you. I know for
exactly.
me, I had somebody when I was a kid. I would try and volunteer in class, and I'd raise my hand to like do something or help out, and the girl behind me would grab my hand and pull it down and say that I was too sick to do it. So it was stuff like that.
Mm.
I definitely think that we need to set our own personal like expectations and boundaries. And if I'm not going to be well enough to do something, I will let you know that I'm not well enough to do something. But someone else setting what I'm capable of doing,
Right.
it destroys your spirit. So
Yes.
I'm glad that you express yourself. You say, "Hey, I'm
Mm.
not up to this. Hey, I am up to this." Actually,
Right.
speaking up is important.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to hear that you've done that a lot in your life. You
Mhm.
are a really strong person, Kim. Honestly, one of
Thank
the
you.
strongest women I've ever met, especially one of the strongest people that have NMO I've ever met. So I appreciate it. I would like to ask. So it's been a couple years since since onset and then diagnosis. Do you feel that you have like regained most of your social life back, although your condition still has its ups and downs? You have a circle of people that still supports you, and still you can always reach out at the very least.
Well, I feel that, yeah, I will always have support of people that call. Not big. I don't have a lot of friends, but I do have still a good circle. And now I've added to that circle a support group. And I happen to facilitate the Jackson Women's Support Group. And that helps me, not just I'm co-facilitating or co-hosting with Lakeisha Littlejohn. And it's been
She's amazing.
very, yeah, she's great. And it's been very great, for us to reach out, and it's, doubled because it's just, just all of us talking, all kind of people, ladies from different avenues and that have NMO. But it's, like I said earlier, this helps my walk or my journey with NMOSD as well. So you don't have to have, a lot of friends. And I think I have a few, but
Yeah.
some don't live here. They don't live close by.
It sounds
And
like you've had a lot of friends in the community too, because
yeah,
I mean, like, it sucks to have NMO. We'll just say it flat.
yeah, yeah.
It's awful. It's not great. But I would say that I've been fortunate in some regards to have to be alive and having this at least during the era where people can talk, where there is the ability to get on a Zoom call and chat with someone that has my same condition, where there is the possibility of connection, even though we're not in the same room, but there's all of this amazing work done by these organizations to connect and support people with these rare conditions, and NMO. It's awful, but nobody is alone, especially not now. And having that kind of that banner to carry, it's a burden, but it often can be an invitation to reach people and to connect with people at a deeper level, because there is nobody that understands NMO quite as well as another patient. And although you know I've gotten to grow up. I'm in college now. I have a boyfriend now. It's like things are going good. Things are going well. I'm happy about that. But it's also things like I'm never going to find exactly that same knowledge of NMO from anybody other than patients. So there are sometimes moments where I'm actually grateful to have not the illness, but to have the people.
Exactly. I think that's the same thing with me. And we know, NMO, it's not the first thing that defines me when not my identification, does not say, my ID card or my driver's license does not say NMOSD. It says Kim Jackson Matthews. And she is, she's this height and she's this weight and she's this color, she's this whatever. And so I have to always keep reminding myself, but in others, like, well, I want to tell them. And that's why I keep going, like the people that I want to reach. And it makes me feel so good that there are people that I've recently reached out to and they had no idea. Of course, you're thinking just like I did, you're the only one that has this rare disease. She came to the women's group the other day and I'm like, yes, yes. And she saw, her eyes and she was able to express how she is currently feeling. Just to do that and to see that's good. That's what I want to keep doing.
That is good. So I would say that, things that come along with a chronic disease often can impact your social life, like fatigue, pain, mental health issues, the things that come after all of NMO. It follows it. But how do you best balance, like, self-care and compassion for your own situation within the context of like a new normal when it comes to your social life?
Yeah, so my new normal is making sure that I put me first. And that hasn't always, like I told you earlier, expressed that hasn't always been the case. I'm, usually helping someone else. So now, though, I make sure that I continue with physical therapy. If I do some time on, like a couple months on, some months off, I'm going and making myself get out of the house and make me accountable for certain things that I know I need to do, calling and putting these things on my calendar. And also, so it's not just physical therapy, getting into, like, I haven't registered yet, but I will soon, into adaptable yoga class.
Yeah.
And so besides those two, and then also getting out and just simply doing the other things that I like to do. If it's, I like sports, and if, like baseball. So going once or twice a year when I can, that makes me happy. And of watching and relaxing, watching certain sports, like, hey, it was just, I don't want to date this, but, watching the Olympics, watching this sport, watching, that sport, tennis. And I like that. And then also making, like I said, just making time for myself. And I looked at beautification. Maybe some women, I understand, if you think, oh, not wearing makeup and not, this and that, that's your choice. But I know in the beginning, I just felt like, oh, I'm just not, I can't do everything at first like I used to do. But it's important to me when I feel good, I look good, you feel good. And that is helped. So I've made, put that on my calendar that I have to get out and go to a professional to get my hair done every other month or so. I'm trying to get my nails done. I'm not a big naily kind of person, but I will go once in a while, do that just to feel good. And then, making sure that I'm here at home, I do my own routines. So I do, being a personal trainer, I know what to do. And so I incorporate my own fitness routine. I have a recumbent bicycle. So I try to do that at least 3 times a week, because just with physical therapy, it poops me out. But that and some other things. So, and then I'm still trying to remember my forms for Taekwondo. And that hasn't been easy because me had problems with some memory at first, and I believe that had to do with my medication. But sometimes we do with this disease, we get brain fog. But I feel so much better now. I'm adjusted medication over the last few years, and medication that has made me lethargic. Yeah, I'm no longer on. So I feel better now, but I just, want to do that and work on that. So that's just mainly exactly what I said. Just putting me first is the best thing I could have done. So I feel better. I feel like a refreshing because I had an issue with that. Okay, I'm not gonna, I don't feel I want to just look like, put on a sweatshirt, a
Right.
sweatsuit and bum around the house. But that made me like just look like that frumpy, bumpy, and have that emotional attachment with that. And I said, no, as my husband would say, oh, bunky. That's what we'd call each other when we're like in a funky mood or something. Oh, bunky. And I'm like, you're right. Nope, I'm not gonna be bunky today. So I'm gonna get up. And so once I started, putting a little bit of makeup on and putting a little lip gloss on and stuff, and then he goes, where are you going? And I'm like, nowhere. Just here in the house.
Yeah.
For me.
I think that's fair because it's like, and I felt like that a lot too, especially when I started doing makeup at first, because it's like people don't talk about it, but it's so hard to do makeup with one eye, especially like you're trying to do eyeliner or mascara or eyeshadow, which is a pain.
Remember we talked about that, like when we were doing the NMOSD. Like, how can you look so pretty? And I'm like, that was what I was struggling with. I'm like, okay, then I won't wear any. But I figured it out.
I think it's just, I mean, part of and everyone's got their own little methods. I know for me, I put my elbow on my knee, and that's the only way I can get my hand to do I have an exact body. Yeah, I have my body language or body muscle memory. That's the word.
Yes,
muscle memory trained to exactly line it up because I had only developed that muscle memory by like using an entire pen of eyeliner just again and again and again until I figured out how to do it, because otherwise like you're doing it blind. You can't get it straight on both sides if you're doing it blind like that. It's really hard.
So much. I tell you, so much. The ladies, I don't know, of course, the men, we do have men with NMOSD and children, but what we talk about as women is some of us.
It's a little different. Yeah.
It's different. And I've been thinking about, I might just get a tattoo eyebrows and things that make it easy. So,
right.
I
mean, to some people, it might be a little silly, but to me, I consider it kind of like reclaiming my body in a weird way, because when you do have this, it's so hard to sometimes feel like your body's yours, because all of a sudden it's just, it's doing all this crazy stuff. It's kind of trying to hurt you. It's a weird feeling. So at least if I can control how I look, even if I can't control, whether I'm going to have an attack or whether I'm going to gain weight from steroids, if I can control how my hair looks, if I can put on makeup, these are things that I can do. And that helps me sometimes when I'm in a low spot where I don't feel like, where I feel kind of like my body is working against me. It makes me feel like I'm a real person, which is weird. And maybe to a man, it's like, what do you mean? It's just makeup. But I don't know. I understand what you mean about beautification. It's a strange thing. It's feminine, yeah, but
it takes the mind. It takes something you just pinpointed out, is that it distracts, and I think that's a good thing. It distracts from the other things, and that's what it's helped me. Like you're saying, like if it's makeup and people say, you're pretty and this, and not having felt that lately, but still doing that for me because of other things like you're saying, other people won't know, but how much weight that I've gained because of the steroids and the medications and things. But I do. And so, but just trying to keep going. And again, not beating myself up, but feeling good and still trying to be in that space.
Yeah. What was the choice? It's either get a little heavier or have a horrible flare again. It's a choice you have to make. It's a
what exactly. I'll just, give me the medicine, give me the steroids. So
it's better to be safe. And I'm glad that steroids can work so well for a lot of people, even if it does battle with people's systems and appearance for a time. It's at least there's something to fall back on, some sort of crutch, because otherwise I think I'd be too scared all the time to even do things. Like the idea of going to the hospital again and having another flare again when I've been pretty okay for a couple of years, it's still scary. But even if my options are, get a little fatter or or get another flare, I'll settle. Yeah. I would like to ask, what advice would you give to someone with NMO who's having a hard time reconnecting with other people after having a diagnosis? Say like they kind of, I think it's sometimes people retract into themselves. They stop attending church, or they stop attending groups. They, don't reach out to friends much anymore, or they just pull back because it can be kind of hard to find the right things to talk about or the right words to say. What would your advice be for someone that's in that situation?
My advice would be just give yourself that time. Give yourself however long it's going to take you to feel your new normal. And if it's journaling, I've done some journaling, and to get your feelings out there. They are real. And then as far as, definitely letting your circle know, if it's definitely, hopefully it's somebody like in your family, bring your family members in and talk to them about what you're going through. And definitely, make sure that they know about the disease, and all you can, you're learning too. So learn as much as you can, research, and find resources. Find maybe a support group. And if you can't find that support group, find some activities that you like to do. And there are so many online, if it's art programs, and find those with organizations like the Guthrie Jackson Charitable Foundation, which I found when I was in the hospital, that have different programs. SRNA, that has some different things as well. Look it up, and because I know there's something out there for everybody. And also you're going to end up meeting some great people along the way. And now you've heard this on the podcast, but there's so many individuals with this, even though we're rare, but we're out there. I just really want to advise you that it's not over and you're not alone. And just keep remembering that you're not alone. And even if you don't have a big circle of friends, some people don't have, they're by themselves, and that's okay. I mean, it's okay. I see for most, I think about, I'm home a lot, by myself. So what do? I'm always busy doing some of the same things that I like to do, even if they were by myself. If is go outside and, plant a tree, go outside and plant something, go outside and get some sunshine, do what makes you smile, that may bring that smile back to you.
Yeah, that's great advice, honestly. I think it can be so hard, especially in the very beginning. But people are here, especially people that understand these conditions, and we always are accepting and wanting more people to connect. We want you to feel the family that we've created. Yeah, you all are family in in that sense, because we understand each other, and we all care about each other very deeply. There are so many people out there who care about you, and it may take some time, but I fully believe that we can continue to have really wonderful lives, even with these disorders. Right. Our lives are not over; they've just begun, and people are good, and life is good, and it's different. It's changed, of course, and things might never go back to the way they were, but the things are the way they are, and we can do whatever we can with that. We can live as best we can in this moment. That's always something I really, really want people to understand is don't wait to get better, because you might not get better, but you are alive now, and life can be really good, even with the circumstances being the way they are.
Yes.
Is there anything else you'd like the chance to say before we wrap things up?
Yes, just how grateful my life is. I mean, how grateful I am for the things and the people that are in my life that I continue to speak to on a daily basis or during the week. And just, I am grateful and I am thankful that with my faith, it's come to where I can do and proceed. And, I have this purpose. And it was a little different, but this purpose that I have is wonderful. And I'm not going to stop doing any of the things that I like to do. And that's what I challenge people who are newly diagnosed to do, is don't stop living your life. Like you just said, you just said it. I'm not going to stop living. I'm not going to stop. Just keep going. Please keep going. Just find a different way, but don't stop. I believe that, I think one of the biggest things too that happened to me is, it happens to everyone when you have this, is about thinking about people that don't understand. There's not everybody who's not, maybe your family member is not going to have that empathy, for you. Just, you got to get tough on this one. And you've got to, you can do it. You can handle it. Just know that you're going to get through. Even though you may not believe it, you're going to get through it.
Thank you to our ABCs of NMOSD sponsors, Amgen, Alexion AstraZeneca Rare Disease, and UCB. Amgen is focused on the discovery, development, and commercialization of medicines that address critical needs for people impacted by rare autoimmune and severe inflammatory diseases. They apply scientific expertise and courage to bring clinically meaningful therapies to patients. Amgen believes science and compassion must work together to transform lives. Alexion AstraZeneca Rare Disease is a global biopharmaceutical company focused on serving patients with severe and rare disorders through the innovation, development, and commercialization of life-transforming therapeutic products. Their goal is to deliver medical breakthroughs where none currently exist, and they are committed to ensuring that patient perspective and community engagement are always at the forefront of their work. UCB innovates and delivers solutions that make real improvements for people living with severe diseases. They partner with and listen to patients, caregivers, and stakeholders across the healthcare system to identify promising innovations that create valuable health solutions.